Hey guys, Anthony, 4x4 Diesel, just going for a bit of a drive to pick up some parts, and thought I'd nail a couple of questions. If you saw that video, you wouldn't, what was it called? You wouldn't believe this ripoff, but it's true, and not the first. There's been a lot of interest in that video, quite a few comments and questions, and maybe a little bit of a misunderstanding. So firstly, we'll just quickly go over that in a couple of minutes. Obviously I haven't got notes in front of me, so as I do in videos, get it wrong sometimes, and say the wrong words and get a few things mixed up. So I'm going to run it by you all again off the top of my head within a couple of minutes. Okay, so the client of Toyota back in 2010, okay, obtained a brand new Toyota Prado GXL, obviously from a dealership through lease plan. So it was a lease plan thing. What's that normally go for? About 5 years, whatever the case may be. Now, injectors are usually a year or 2 or 3 years older than the vehicle. Okay, so 3 years older than the vehicle, or the engine is the oldest we've seen. Quite often 1 to 2 years. It varies, depending whether it's a Prado or Hilux, but that doesn't matter too much. Okay, so he brought his vehicle. Okay, so we've got a little bit of background information. Over the last quite a few years, over 5 years, he's a client and a friend, so we know him very well. He's very well organised, he's very intelligent, and he's got all his ducks in a row, and that's why he's still got the paperwork from 2014. So what happened was, he's recently retired, and he decided it's time to put some fresh injectors in, because they haven't been done since 2014. It's 2022 now, right? So they're 7 or 8 years old. He's following the recommendation. Obviously he doesn't know what work was done then, because it was done by a Toyota dealership, blah blah blah. Thanks for spraying the rocks on me, good driving. So that's the scenario. Okay, so client slash very good friend. He's not making any claim to Toyota at this stage. So for those people that think he's just trying to get something, he's not trying to get anything. I'm the one that's picked it up, and I'm trying to help people understand the kind of things that happen. Now, as I said, I could have got it wrong somewhere, but my understanding is, by reading the paperwork, he took in the vehicle because it was blowing smoke in 2014. They replaced a heap of stuff. That the bill was $6,200, and somewhere on that paperwork it says the injectors were replaced. Okay, he returned the injectors to us for the free contamination check that we do, because he's a very wise guy. And in doing so, the other thing we do, we take note of the age of the injectors, if you like, the manufacture date compared to the vehicle, and that's how we compile our own education and information to share with you guys and find out things like this. The injectors he gave us back were built in 2008, which is consistent with a 2010 build Prado. Okay, so that's the first important part. I don't know what else I left out. He was given all the old parts back other than injectors, quite obviously, because they weren't replaced. Now, some people say, oh, maybe they were cleaned, or they were rebuilt or whatever. Well, that's not what the invoice says, I don't think. I'm pretty sure it says new injectors. And back then, I don't believe, look, there's a couple of different types of remanufactured or rebuilt injectors, if you like, and neither of them, these injectors that came out were neither of those. So there's no other place. There's the Denso dealership approved remanufacturing program, which I don't approve of, but these injectors were not that, so they were not those rebuilt injectors. To my knowledge, the only other place that makes their own injectors out of old injector parts and getting some manufactured from new, it wasn't their injectors either, okay? And it just, they weren't replaced. It's simple as that. If it was wrong or something along those lines, then certainly we wouldn't bother talking about it. We're 99 point, as many nines as you can sure that this is that's what's happened. Okay, 2010, it had 2008 injectors in it. I don't know what works they've done. We believe they've taken the injectors out, because if you watch the video, you can see the soot on the bottom of the injector seat, because they didn't clean the port properly. So lucky with that one for 7 or 8 years. That shows evidence that they've been out. It doesn't show, look, they may have been sent for cleaning or whatever. Cleaning doesn't do anything. There's not an issue. smoke fix then? Well, perhaps they replaced the air filter or cleaned the MAF sensor, because the vehicle was, what, 4 years old? 4 years old or so, thereabouts, 2014, 2010. So if they weren't doing their servicing properly, which is always a possibility, let's just say, and the MAF sensor was dirty or the air filter wasn't changed, this is another basic cause of possibilities of vehicles blowing smoke. So when you've got a fairly standard vehicle and it doesn't have a lot of modifications like big exhaust and chips and tunes and all this sort of thing, and it's only 4 years old and it blows smoke, there can be one of those causes, or there may have been some fuel contamination, and cleaning all that out may have rectified the issue and the injectors weren't actually damaged that bad then, okay? But it doesn't change the fact that the $6,200 was charged, and I'm pretty sure it says on the paperwork, if you have a look at that video, new injectors or injectors replaced or something along those lines. I'd have to go and check myself to be sure about that, but you can go check that for yourself. Anyway, we've covered that little bit more myth busting and misunderstandings, some comments about mechanics and technicians and the difference, okay? So mechanic technician, it's kind of the same thing. This is what happened in the early 90s. All the fancy, places like dealerships wanted to call it technicians because it sounds more fancy, doesn't it? Don't you sound a lot more professional as a technician than a mechanic? So I'm a technician because I am fancy, and I think technician, it's more of a technical. So for the maybe good mechanics, a mechanic's just a mechanic, mate. He's a bit rough, you know what I mean? But a technician, I think a technician's better, but it's the new age mechanic. Lots of people always talk about, oh, don't go to dealerships, they've got a first year apprentice, working on your car. Well, that probably is the case a lot of times, but, there's not always a first year. It could be a second year or a third year, but it doesn't matter if they're apprentice or not, because you can have a really awesome second or third year apprentice, but you can have a whole lot of what I call the kids, mechanics, untrained, wrong attitudes, don't care, maybe not very intelligent, doing all the wrong things to your vehicle, and they're not necessarily trained that well. One day a year, after your apprenticeship or whatever you did before your apprenticeship, or the time they're spending training people in dealerships or any workshops for that matter, or keeping up to date, isn't necessarily enough. Okay, so let's be clear. This isn't pick on Toyota or pick on any one dealership because you think this is the only time something like that's happened. So the point is, lots of businesses, including dealerships, can either accidentally or on purpose overcharge you or rip you off. Now, we already talked about, we've got the facts in line with this one. Something could be wrong, just like, it could rain blood, but, the chances of that are probably similar with the chances of any of the information in that original video being wrong. So, all dealers, somebody said, oh, Subaru are the same. Look, they're all the same. They're these big places. They're designed to make money, okay? They're not designed to provide a service. Their number one priority isn't providing service to you with and hopefully we'll make some money in mind. It is, we are here to make money and we'll charge as much as we can that we can still keep the customers coming in, and we'll provide as much customer service as we can when we've got time to, maybe if it suits us, and this sort of thing, if you know what I mean. They are there to make money, okay? Now, there is some good dealerships because, good people own them and they've got good management, they've got good people working there because, how it works, you attract people like yourself, hopefully, not always, sometimes some crazies as well, but at the end of the day, if you've got a good manager and he gets, if you've got a good owner and he gets good managers, good people, and all these good people working together, so there's good dealerships out there, so don't write everybody off, and some people know what I'm talking about, but it doesn't mean they're not going to have a shortage of being able to get the right staff for out the back in the workshop, because that is a definite problem. As I've said in other videos, my year 10 teacher at tech school told me about this is what was going to happen. There's going to be a shortage, okay? There's going to be a shortage, and look, at the moment there's a shortage of everything and it's getting worse and worse. Let's not go into that subject, right? And then you've got the comments about Toyota and their reputation, and Toyota Japan wouldn't like it if. And I believe that to be true. And I've personally tried to email Japan, and their receptionist or whoever it is that gets those emails, oh, you know, that's got to be directed to Australia. So any emails that got sent to Japan, they got redirected back to Australia. So the system they've got there works really well also, because Australia needs to take care of all the concerns in Australia. Now, we know how that works out. So I've got no faith or reliability in contacting Japan for anything. I do believe if it got to the right people, they'd be horrified with some of the things that go on here. So the service level, I believe that, you know, some things certainly should be covered, and there's probably some things that I'm a bit surprised they are covered, you know, but they've got their reasons. If they want to cover extra things, that's fine, but understand, like your long warranties and everything that's covered, we're all paying for it in the price of new and used Toyotas. And I say used because the new price goes up, and that helps the used price go up and hold its value even better also. And I hope you're ready for record inflation. There's plenty of that. Anyway, I think that's a video. So yep, that Prado, it went in blowing smoke, and it obviously was fixed. So it came back not blowing black smoke, but it came back with the original injectors in it. And that's that. So if you've got any further questions, you know, keep it short, because there's some really long replies. I'll lose interest with a long reply, but I spent a bit of time on it. It's part of the reason I did this video. I'm not going to spend any more time. It's almost like, what do they call that? Spamming questions, and they're just not short. It's just this big long thing. So if that was the plan, to waste my time, you have succeeded, but I'm not going to spend any more time on it. I just killed two birds with one stone, bit of chit chat while we're driving. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you learnt something out of this, or hope it helps you understand a little bit better. You know the deal. Subscribe, turn the bell on, smash the like button if you learnt something, and check out the videos. Catch ya.